In this video, we'll cover Zoom hotkeys, using the whiteboard, screen sharing, recording your meeting, and combining those techniques to make video content. One of the most important things to know about Zoom is that there's a number of keyboard shortcuts that you can use to accomplish various tasks in Zoom quickly or discreetly. So to look at those keyboard shortcuts, we want to click the settings gear here on the main Zoom menu here and go down to keyboard shortcuts. I'm not going to review them all. I will show you the most useful ones. So by default, everything is disabled for the most part in global shortcut other than this one here. So I've gone ahead and enabled all of these ones. These are the ones that I consider to be the most useful, and these are the ones I think that you would want access to while Zoom is not focused. So what the global shortcut means is if Zoom is not in focus, maybe you're focused on PowerPoint or something like that, you're still going to be able to hit one of these hotkeys and have Zoom react accordingly. The most important hotkey to know about in Zoom is the mute/unmute audio for everyone except host hotkey. So that's Alt-M. Only the host can do that. That's going to save you several minutes of manually muting everyone in your meeting or something like that. And it can also just rescue you in an emergency situation where maybe, for example, with Zoom bombing, someone is shouting something inappropriate. You can instantly mute everyone in the room. You don't have to figure out who's saying it. And then you can deal with it from there. Beyond that, there are a number of other hotkeys that I recommend that you enable global shortcut for. These ones displayed here. Please go ahead and enable the global shortcut on all of those if you intend to follow through with the rest of the video, as we will be using them when Zoom is not in focus. Next up with Zoom is the whiteboard. You can access the whiteboard either by clicking Share Screen or hitting Alt-S is the Share Screen hotkey. That'll bring up your selection screen here, and you can go ahead and choose the whiteboard. So when you have the whiteboard displayed, you can certainly draw on it and so on, but it's important to note that by default, your meeting participants can also draw on it. This may be disabled by default sometime in the near future based off some of the changes happening to Zoom. But at the time of this recording, the participants can draw on the whiteboard by default. This can be disabled in the settings. Participants access the whiteboard controls like so by clicking on the top of the screen where it says View Options and then clicking on Annotate. People can also edit the whiteboard on a mobile device by clicking on the pencil icon that will appear on the bottom left-hand side of the screen when the host is sharing the whiteboard. Hotkeys associated with the whiteboard would be to pause or resume screen sharing. That's Alt-T. So if I do that now, you'll see that the screen sharing is paused. So we're not actually getting updated whiteboard right now. And then if we hit Alt-T again, we're back live. Everything's live again now. So if we make any changes, those will be displayed. Not a lot of reason to use that with the whiteboard necessarily, but that is a useful feature when you're doing screen sharing, which we'll talk about in a moment here. Another hotkey associated with screen sharing is the Alt-Shift-S. That brings up this screen sharing selection tool that can be done. So instead of stopping my whiteboard, so if I had hit the hotkey for screen sharing, which is Alt-S, as you can see, that just closed the whiteboard. So instead, if we want to have the whiteboard remain open, but then also look at the possible windows that we can share, we can hit Alt-Shift-S. That's going to bring up the screen share window. We can choose what we want to switch over to. Speaking of screen sharing, you can certainly do screen sharing with Zoom. There's a number of options. I'll show you here. So under Basic, You could share any of your windows. For example, if I wanted to specifically share the PowerPoint window, I could do that. If I wanted to specifically share the script that I'm following along for this video, I could do that. And if I wanted to share one of my monitors entirely, I can do that. But beyond that, you can also go to Advanced, go to the portion of screen, and actually select the portion of the screen that you want to share. And beyond that, you can do just sound only or content from another camera. So there's a couple of options there. So when you do share your screen, you'll see this green frame around the screen. And if you highlight up here, you should be able to tell that you're sharing your screen right now because it says stop share. So hotkeys that are good to know about with this is again Alt-T, so we can pause and resume our screen sharing. So that makes more sense with screen sharing than it does with the whiteboard, as you probably imagine, because we can just go ahead and hide our activity when we're doing something that we don't want to broadcast in our video. So screen sharing, we can go ahead and open up a PowerPoint, for example, and broadcast that. I'll just switch the display settings so the presenter view is on the projected monitor here. And there you have it. So we're sharing our PowerPoint. And if we navigate with the arrow keys instead of using the mouse, we're not going to have that UI showing up. And all they're going to see is our slides, and we can just discretely navigate back and forth between the slides. So we can discretely navigate between the slides, and then we can also use Alt-Shift-S at any time. Pop up that screen share window very quickly. Your audience is going to see this when you use it, when you're actually sharing the monitor as opposed to the whiteboard, but it's faster than fumbling around with the UI. So you just hit Alt-Shift-S, switch over to whatever else you want to switch over to. Now we're sharing the whiteboard. You can switch back over. There we are, back on the monitor, and so on and so forth. Now, you know, this might be a lot to juggle in a live presentation. You might not want to be doing that much switching, but there are some use cases. So in Zoom, you can also record your meeting. Now, that's certainly useful for a number of reasons, but the reason that I will cover here is that you can combine this with the screen sharing and whiteboard functionality along with the hotkeys, and you can create video presentations of your lectures, jumping back and forth between the slides and the whiteboard, and pausing so that you have time to review your notes or anything like that, or make any kind of changes that you identify, and really minimize those edits. So recording can be done, as you can see, either clicking down here and clicking on one of these two, whether it's record to the computer or record to the cloud, or you can also hit Alt-R to record to the computer or Alt-C to record to the cloud. So I will record to the computer here. So now we see this recording icon up here. The meeting is being recorded. There are some hotkeys that we might want to use while we're recording, mainly Alt-P. So I've hit Alt-P, and that's pause the recording. If I hit Alt-P again, that unpauses the recording. So that is useful, especially when you are needing to stop and review your notes or switch between screens. So where do we go from here? How do we use this to make an interesting video? I would say start the recording, pause immediately, go ahead and share whatever you want to share. In this case, let's say we want to do our slides. So I will play from beginning these slides, and I'll switch to the display settings so that they are where I want them to be. So as you can see, after you hit Alt-P, it's recording again. So it's recording our slides because we are screen sharing, as you can see, because it's telling us that we can stop sharing. So we're sharing this screen. We're recording that, and that's making a video of what we're sharing on our screen. It can be tricky because if you just hit record and forget to share your screen and just go look at your slides, It's not like regular video capture software. Zoom is designed around meetings, and this isn't really what it's designed for. So you have to be careful not to accidentally forget to actually record your screen. That's an important feature of your presentation. Beyond that, you can certainly pause, Alt-P, like so, and we'll go Alt-Shift-S, and that's going to bring up all of our options for other things that we can present. I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard. So once you have your whiteboard up, you can just go ahead and continue using it while you're talking and recording. So I could display what's on here, certainly, but then I can go, and as I was saying, a circle looks like this. A little demonstration of what a circle looks like. Obviously, I'm sure you'll have better things to show your class. Now, beyond that, you can just, whenever you're done that, hit Alt-P. That pauses your recording. Then we can go Alt-Shift-S, bring up the screen sharing again. Go ahead and switch back over to screen number 2 here, and then hit share. And that's going to go ahead and bring us back to our PowerPoint presentation there. So once we're switched back over to our PowerPoint presentation again, we can just go ahead and hit Alt-P, resume on slide 2, talk about slide 2. When we're finished on slide 2, Alt-P, and continue on with the presentation. Hit Alt-P to continue recording, talk about slide 3, and so on. And it's just the same thing over and over. And when you get comfortable with those hotkeys, you can jump around with minimal amounts of edits to make, because you're pausing at the right time with Alt-P. Then you're thinking about what you're going to do. You're using those hotkeys to mitigate the amount of fumbling around with the UI. You can quickly switch over to the other thing without losing focus. You can get everything ready and then hit Alt-P and continue with your presentation, so on and so forth. Alt-P, Alt-Shift-S, and so on. It's really a good workflow once you practice it a little bit. The hotkeys will be a bit frustrating at first. I strongly recommend either printing out a hotkey cheat sheet or having it up on your second monitor, especially when you're presenting, especially the first couple of times you're trying to do one of these videos, and it's really going to be a lot easier if you practice it. So I've stopped sharing now, and our recording is paused, and we can just go ahead and hit stop recording, and it's going to convert that file to an MP4 when the meeting ends. So we just go ahead and end that meeting. End meeting for all. Go ahead and wait for it to convert. And once that's converted, you've got your video. You can do whatever you want with it, upload it to YouTube, edit it further with a different software, etc.